Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today I want to talk about something that I actually was planning on making the video yesterday and posting it. And I ended up making like 4 videos of it and just kept deleting it because I couldn't get the message out that I wanted to. And so we're going to try today, especially after what happened last night in the news that I'm sure you're all aware of. The message that I want to get out to you is that most everybody, I think, lives under this delusion that the people with the real power, the people that are in charge, the people that rule over us are these elites. And it doesn't really matter which side of the aisle they're on. It doesn't matter if it's a conservative elite or liberal progressive elite. We have this idea that for some reason they're the ones that have all this power. And so many people have forgotten that they don't, that it's you and I that have the real power to live our lives and to make this world and our nation something better than it is. And so I hope today to try to cover that and remind everyone that no matter how important you think these people may be, no matter how much money they have, no matter how much they're able to manipulate and to control things in this world, the people that really control things are you and I. I use the analogy a lot of times when discussing something like this of cattle. And it's because something I've worked a lot with. And I don't have them now, but as you can see, I have sheep. And sheep are, well, there's some similarities there. With cattle, they're a beast that's many times larger and more powerful than the owner. And there's usually many, many more of them. You may have one farmer out there with dozens or even hundreds of head of cattle. And yet he's able to, most of the time, to control them and to get them to go places that he wants them to go, to come to feed, to maybe milk. And he may have some help along the way from other people that work for him or dogs or something like that. But in the end, the cattle are still way more powerful than the people that are in control. And it's not that the farmer has so much power that he's actually able to control them. It's that the cattle are allowing him to control them because they have submitted themselves to him. They believe that he's capable of inflicting great harm on them and that there's no way that these cows could overpower him because they live in fear of what the cattle owner or the dog that maybe he's using could do to them. But in the end, they don't understand that they actually are capable of overpowering the farmer, the dog, all the ranch hands. It doesn't matter because they are vastly more powerful and capable of using their brute strength against him. But they live in this idea that, you know, he is more powerful than them. And that's the same way of the world that we live in today. We live under this delusion that the people in charge of us, the people that have all the money, the people that run corporations and that run banks and that run nations are the ones that have all the power and that they rule over us, and that in the end it doesn't matter what our will is, that they will move the world in the way that they want to, and that we just have to go along with it and hope in some way it's okay for us and somewhat benefits us. The reality is that those people, the ones that are in charge, the ones that have all the money, that upper 1%, 3%, whatever it is, 0.5%, they're the ones that's really living in fear because they're afraid that the masses, us the people, will someday see that they really don't have any clothes. See that one day that all their money, all their technology really doesn't mean that much when it comes to ruling all of us, that there's far more of us than there are them. And that in the end, they may own the corporations, they may own the banks, but it's you and I, it's our own hands that build this nation, that build civilization, that build society. It's you and I that make the choices to do right or wrong, that build a culture. It's not them. And that's something that we must always remember. Some of you may be disappointed in the last, since yesterday afternoon because of a decision that was made in the White House. And there's a lot of theories over whether it's some little game, it's another part of the plan, or it's just the person capitulating to the swamp in Washington, D.C. In the end, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you and I need to realize to not put all our faith in one person, no matter how good that person is. Oh, it's fine to have someone in leadership, someone that's speaking for, someone that has a larger platform than you or I do. And that's fine. But what becomes dangerous is when we put all our faith in that person. We actually start believing that they will be the one that will end the corruption in politics, that will end this attack on our freedoms. We believe that this one person or this one political organization or political party has the power to actually change things and bring about our freedom. We forget that it's you and I. If you go back to the Revolutionary War, we look to and look up to, and I do too, the great leaders of our past, our founding fathers. And we read their quotes and we read about them, and we find it encouraging to read about these great men of our past that led this nation to freedom. But it was not those men that brought about the freedom. It was the average soldier out there fighting against the tyranny of the British Empire that brought about the freedom. And if that's not true, then what was there any need to have those soldiers? George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, on. There were some great names and they did some great things, but it was actually the average person that went out and stood up against the tyranny of the British Empire that actually brought about freedom. And we have to realize that today. The things that are going on, the things that are publicly going on, the things that we might suspect are going on, and probably are, this stuff isn't going to stop because we elect the right person into office. It's not going to stop because some billionaire decides to get behind a cause and use his name and his wealth and power to push an agenda. These things are only going to stop if you and I and others around us stand up and say enough is enough. I believe we're starting to see some of that. I don't know that it's quite at that point that it's making major effects and real change, but I do believe that more and more people are waking up. There's certainly a lot of video of it. There's people being arrested for just standing their ground when it comes to an unlawful and an unjust ordinance. There are people that are speaking out against this kind of tyranny, that are continually opening their business even when they're told that it's unsafe for public health, and that you're just supposed to crouch down and lick the chains and the hands that feed you. We are seeing more of it. I'm not quite sure that it's enough yet, but I know that it's possible. I know that there has to be enough fight left in us. I believe that there is anyways. And so while you may become discouraged over what's happened, and in the end, Joe Biden may in fact take office on January 20th, and his presidency may last however long, and the Great Reset may continue to move forward, and shots in the arm may in fact be forced upon people. It does not matter in the end what they do as long as we resist them. Now, The only power that they have over them is what we give them. The only power that they have to control us is when we capitulate, is when we submit. So, those of you that may be discouraged about the recent decision in the White House to sign a bill that we all know is vastly corrupt, just know that that person in the White House is not the one that's going to save us. It doesn't matter how good he is, or how good you believe that he is. He's not going to save us. Only you and I and our resistance to their corruption is going to save us. We have to start voting these people out of office. And I know you say, well, they control the vote, obviously, now. That's true. And maybe in the end, we'll finally figure out that voting does no good. It's something I've been saying for years. But we have to show them that we're no longer cattle. We're no longer like these sheep out here in this field. That we are individuals and that we are the ones that have all the real power in this world. So, regardless of what your plans are, regardless of what you feel is going on, whether it's good or bad or some type of plan or only to further a cause later on in the future, just know that it's not any one person that actually runs things. They're not actually running the world or ruling the world. They're just trying to. And the only way that they are is when we allow them to rule the world. We have to stand up against this, and we have to speak out and resist the tyranny that is growing rapidly around us. I am not that old. I'm 42. But the changes that's happened in my own lifetime is almost mind-boggling. And I know that some of you that are older would say the same thing in your lifetime. At some point, we have to speak out, stand up, and resist tyranny. It's the only way for it to end. Tyranny doesn't die because we just happen to elect the right person into office, or someone just happens to pass the right piece of legislation. Tyranny only stops when enough people speak out against it and tear it down and give it no room to grow. That is how we defeat this enemy of tyranny, this enemy of darkness, is by resisting it. So try not to get too down. Honestly, for me, it wasn't that surprising. I was surprised that it lasted as long as it did. And maybe there is some great plan that we're just not all privy to. But we'll just have to wait and see for that, folks. It's why we stay prepped. We prep in our lives. We get our homes ready for what may happen tomorrow. We get our minds solid and secure and strong and capable of going through things. And we prepare our hearts for the spiritual warfare in the future that we know is going to get worse at some point, because the scripture tells us that. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.